still 11 degrees at 8:12. Steve and Meredith, WRCR, on this Wednesday morning. And let's say good morning to Pete Bradley. Hi, Pete.
Hey, good morning, Meredith and Steve. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, Pete, do you represent a specific organization?
I do represent a grassroots organization called the Clarkstown Preservation Society, and we touch upon a lot of various issues. Right now, the big pressing issue, I've been listening to your radio show since 7 a.m., is obviously this Congress bond vote, which is coming on Tuesday, and we are clearly advocates of voting yes for that bond to try to save and restore that school. And I've actually been listening a lot, and I want to touch up on a couple things. If you could just indulge me for a second.
Absolutely. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. First of all, it just came out yesterday about the state aid, the meeting with Carl Turnow. He came down from Albany, and they had a discussion, and he said, no, there will not be state aid. So essentially what is going to happen, the cost of this bond to the average taxpayer will be $26 per year. That is annual. That comes out to $2.17 per month per average homeowner, as opposed to the $10, which we would have gotten if we got state aid. So we're talking about $2.17 per month per average homeowner. Another thing that has come out is Carl Turnow and State Education Department is saying that we have 70 to 80 empty classrooms. That is a falsehood. They are doing simply a math calculation where they are totaling all of our elementary school students and dividing by the number of classrooms. And essentially they're saying we have state law where you're allowed, and again, these numbers may not be completely accurate, but you're allowed in second grade, you're allowed to have a maximum of, I think, 23 students. Fourth and fifth, you can go up to 24.5. That is what he's doing. So in other words, if we only have 18 students in fourth and fifth grade, he's saying you got an extra 6 students that, are not being utilized. So therefore, you have 70 to 80 empty classrooms. The Clarkstown Central School District elementary schools only have between 7 and 8 empty classrooms. We enjoy an excellent reputation with our educational system based on the fact that we have a very good student-to-teacher ratio. So essentially what they're saying is, and actually Dr. Morton has actually jumped on the bandwagon with this.
Now, who is he?
Dr. Morton is the superintendent of Clarkstown Central School District.
Okay.
He's actually jumped on the bandwagon with this, and he's actually being, disingenuous in my opinion. He's made a comment, actually, I'm quoting in the patch. It's basically saying we have to close 2 other schools if we want to keep Congers online. That is complete fiction. No other schools are going to be closed. Let me preface by saying I've been to every school board meeting since the end of August, and the special meetings, which there were a couple special meetings for Congers Elementary only. They are not advocating closing 2 extra schools. That is Turnow's recommendation. He's essentially offering a horse trade. If you agree to close 2 extra schools, then I will grant you the state aid to get the taxpayer to pay $10 an hour. The Clarkstown Preservation Society, myself, and everyone else in Congress is adamantly opposed to closing 1 single elementary school. It's unforgivable to close these schools.
Has your organization done any research to estimate where the student population will be in years to come? We hear 2 ends of this. One says the population will decline. Others say that they're building houses, they're selling homes, and the population, especially in the Congers area, will increase.
The population is on the uptick. The pre-registration for kindergarten is already at 40, and that's just pre-registration. That is a high number. The actual registration doesn't start until next week. And that is higher than the last 2 years. The number is actually ticking up. Here's what happens, Steve. The economy is cyclical. They were using birth rates, live birth rates, for when we were in that knee-deep recession back in 08 and 09 when Bear Stearns collapsed, the housing market collapsed. Responsible people are not going to start having children, especially since their breadwinner is either laid off or about to get laid off. It's like that all over the country. The birth rates are going to go down because people can't afford to have children. It's not a safe investment. I shouldn't call a child an investment. It's not a safe strategy to start having children when you're on the brink of getting laid off. We're coming out of that, in my opinion. Now, I'm not a financial analyst, but we're coming out of that recession right now, and therefore we're starting to see an uptick in live births. Another thing, I really want to hammer this, though, about Dr. Morton, because I think some things need to be understood. He is very smart when he issues his letters to all of the parents in the Central School District that he merely recommends. He's used this word recommend, and it's a very good word to use because that's all he can do. That is the absolute extent of his power, is to make recommendations. The ultimate authority in any decision regarding these schools is the 7-member volunteer board. They are just citizens from within the town of Clarkstown that get elected, re-elected. They run on 3-year terms. Dr. Morton can only make recommendations. The ultimate decision lies within the board. His recommendations, since this whole situation started at the end of August, have been shot down numerous times. One time right on the open floor in front of everyone to see, when I'm sure you're aware that his original redistricting plan for the Congers kids didn't work out. After 2 weeks, it was being realized that these kids are not getting the required education as mandated by state law. So they had to do an emergency second shuffle, just shuffling around these children like they're cattle. And that's another thing I want to touch upon, is how ultimately they're the victims here.
Let me ask you this, though, from a more pragmatic basis. If the bond fails and the children have to be redistributed, will that put an extra burden on the transportation system of the district?
Absolutely. It put a huge burden on before, when they had this, this 5-week redistricting plan. You need more buses. It's just that simple.
More buses are going to cost more money.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of unintended things that people aren't looking into. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't be at these meetings probably. That's the first meeting I've gone to since 1988. Was the end of August, because obviously I have a vested interest because I have a son going to that school. But the reality is, he gave a breakdown at the last school board meeting, which was last week. And here are the numbers. In Lakewood Elementary, with his 1-year redistricting plan, that's what it is a 1-year redistricting plan. If the bond fails, you will have 83 students in first grade in Lakewood. You will have 80 students in second grade.
How many first grades and how many second grades?
We'll do 4 modules for 83 students. 4 modules in second grade for 80 students. 3 modules of 78 students in third grade. 3 modules of 71 students in fourth grade. And then a staggering 94 students. I mean, basically, short of pushing them there with cattle prod, that's what you're doing. And quite frankly, that's how we enjoy and built up this excellent reputation in the Clarkstown Central School District, is we've always enjoyed a very good student and teacher ratio.
That's undeniable. The standards speak for themselves. The scores speak for themselves. It is one of the most, if not the most, outstanding district in the state of New York.
Exactly, Steve. And to further enhance what I'm saying, Joseph Rand, who works for Rand Realty, as a matter of fact, he's corporate counsel for Rand Realty, also known as Better Homes and Gardens. He wrote a very stinging letter, and he wants everyone to understand that there's the consequences here. And by the way, I don't know Joseph Rand. I've never met him, but this was emailed to me. The consequences of not voting yes for this bond are going to be drastic on home values, not just in Congress, but throughout Clarkstown. Because I'm just going to give one quote, because I don't want to eat all my time on this excellent letter that Joseph Rand wrote, because he does have statistics here to back it up. But the biggest problem here, and I'm quoting now, generally speaking, a school bond failing is publicly perceived as a sign of institutional dysfunction. We in Rockland County are now perceived as being institutionally dysfunctional. And, they just gave a release about a week ago about the latest real estate data, and I'm sure you read it off on the air. But the real estate data came in. Westchester increased 21% in 2013, Putnam went up 17%, and Rockland went up 14%. And that's what we're talking about. We're not necessarily saying your real estate won't increase. You're just going to be taking a pay cut, essentially, in terms of accruing a real estate value. Rockland is known, let's face it, it's the most fiscally bankrupt county in the state now. And I do believe we're on an uptick with Ed Day taking over as a county executive, but he's got a long, hard road to overcome the reputation that we've cultivated for ourselves.
But the fact of the matter is our population will increase. The new Tappan Zee Bridge over the years, the next few years, when that's finally constructed, will be more of an enticement for people to come here.
Right, exactly.
I can't buy the argument that the only 300 kids in that school right now and the student population will continue to diminish. I don't think that's going to happen.
Steve, if you listen to them, to Dr. Morton and business manager John Lenape, that eventually will be down to zero and will close every school.
Yeah, I've heard
philosophically, if you're going to listen to their philosophy, like this is a permanent thing. It's been cyclical since the beginning of time, and it usually goes on how the economy fluctuates. And right now, only on my opinion, the economy is on an uptick. We went into a deep valley in the in the late 2000s, and responsible people just aren't going to start having children. We're having homes being built in the Dr. Davies subdivision. Yeah. I was told there's going to be 30 of them. Where are we going to put these new kids? That's another thing. His 1-year redistricting plan does not account for any extra students. We're packing them in there, and we're diluting the value of our educational system. Now, go ahead.
Because I want to cover as much as I can in the limited time we have. To me, a $6.5 million price tag seems inordinately high. Why, can you justify why it would cost that much?
I sure can, because I didn't know neither, because we're talking about a wall, one wall. We're not talking about building a ballpark. The contractors pay a fee to be in, New York State education mandates that you have to be in a network in order to get contracts to work on their school buildings, New York State school buildings. So with that fee, it's essentially there is a limited market to get bidding. And I'm not going to badmouth the contractors. I'm just going to say how it is. When you're going in there, you now enjoy the right to gouge because you're paying this fee. You're paying a licensing fee to go in there and work on these exclusionary buildings. It's sort of like when you break down on the Palisades or the Thruway and you have a tow truck guy pull you and he hits you for $160. Well, what are you talking about? It should be $80 or $70. Well, no. I have rights to this road. It's the same thing. I have rights to do work on these buildings, and that's why we're going to charge you this much. Originally, the wall was only $1.5 million, but they decided to do a phase 3 inspection, which is essentially a white glove inspection throughout the whole building. And they decided some partial roof work needed to be done, as well as partial windows needed to be installed, and some ADA compliance, which in terms of ripping up some asbestos tiling. Steve, if I could also delve onto this real quick. Yeah. People have been speculating, because this is what we do. We think of the what-ifs. Let's just sell the building if the bond fails. Just sell the building. All right. There are certain things that you can and can't do with buildings owned by, New York State education buildings. In order to sell a building, it's not up to Dr. Morton or it's not up to Mr. Lenave, the assistant superintendent. It is merely up to the 7-member board to put the building up for sale. I just want to read a quote from Education Law 1804. The Board of Education may sell any piece of real property which such board shall deem to be of no use or value. I want to make clear that everyone understands. When you go in and vote yes or no, just understand that if this bond fails, that's the last vote you're having on the future of that school. You have turned it over to the school board. By the way, there's 5 seats that are up for election in the next 16 months. We have 2 coming up in May, and then we have 3 more next year. You don't necessarily know who your school board is or is going to be. You're putting full reliance into a bunch of strangers who you don't even know, are going to be coming. We have real and empirical data of what is. I heard one of your callers from East Ramapo call in before, complaining about what's, the demise of the whole school district. Real and empirical data has been returned. We have 2 school buildings. One of them actually in New City in the town of Clarkstown, the Hillcrest Elementary, and the other is the Colton School, also in East Ramapo School District, that are up for under criminal review. Actually, the Hillcrest was under a criminal investigation, which included an appraiser being arrested, and both of them are up to civil litigation. And the people paying all of these fees are the actual taxpayers, the lawyer fees, to try to recover their buildings from illicit sales. They've deemed the one in the Colton School to be a legal sale. Essentially what they did was the school board allowed the building to be rented, and they gave leased, and they gave the tenants right of first refusal. And they ended up saying, we're just going to sell it to the current tenants, but they're doing a reduced rent roll. So in other words, they're getting a portion of their previous rent deducted off the sale price. These are the things that people have to understand. If that school building closes, you're essentially saying, I'm okay with leaving a 49,000 square foot building on 6.1 acres in a great town, and then I put full faith in the school board, which, by the way, I may not know who it is in 16 months because 5 new ones are coming in. So there's a lot in play here. Like I said, I've been to every meeting, and it's just not about saving $2.17 a month. Imagine, that's the price of a 10-ounce glass of orange juice.
But it's going to be a hard sell because of people's perception. What I still don't fathom is why they are limited to contractors to do this work. That makes absolutely no sense.
Jump on the bandwagon. Like I said, Steve, I'm one of the most fiscally conservative people that my friends know. I am abhorred by this as well. Again, this is
a non-negotiable price?
Well, no, it can be open for bidding, but again, you're putting in a small window of bidders. You have to have the licensing fee to get into the building to make a bid. Because obviously when this happened, we had contractors jumping up. That's nonsense. Where are those numbers coming from? And I could do it for a third of that price. And they said, well, you can't because you're not in the network.
Could your organization conceivably become involved in trying to secure the other bidders and seeing if the price tag can be lowered?
Well, I shouldn't say my organization, all Congress parents throughout,
yeah.
Because we've had large turnouts at all of these school board meetings, because we don't want this to happen to any other elementary school. It's shameful what is going on to us, and we don't wish it on anyone. And our pledge is, if this bond passes, we're not just walking away and saying, if Dr. Moore makes another recommendation in my term, which is goofy, that we're going after another school, which, by the way, he has said we will not. I do not recommend closing another school if this one passes, as has the school board, Mike Agliaro, president, saying we're not going through this rigmarole again. Real quick, though, I also want to say, if you notice, whoever you're calling, these elected leaders or people in high esteem, community leaders, no one will say, I am in favor of closing school. We have Ed Day, Rockland County Executive. I'm voting yes. Dave Christel, which is the president of the Jewish Community Center, as an individual, he's not speaking on behalf of the community center. He put up a Facebook posting saying, I'm voting yes. Please make sure to reference Joseph Rand's letter about home equity values. Senator Carlucci, you had on yesterday, he's voting yes. Kenneth Zabrowski, New York State Assemblyman, he's voting yes. Alex Gromack, Town of Clarkstown Superintendent, he's voting yes. George Holman, Stephanie Hauser, Frank Borelli, and Shirley Lasker, the entirety of the town board are voting yes, except for Miss Lasker, because she lives in Upper Nyack, but she would vote yes if she didn't. And you also have Chris Carey, who is the legislative minority leader who lives in Bardonia. He's voting yes.
All right, you know what, Pete? I think we covered this very well, and I have my business report coming on in a couple of minutes. But you made it very eloquent. You made it very push for this, and push for this. If you want to just if you want to just where the voting place would be.
Well, I can repeat that the voting places will be. You'll have one in Lakewood, which is where all Congress residents will go, which is where, and then to be honest, it's sectional. If you have one in Boston, that would be one in Elementary, and I believe American Federal. Last one at Laurel Plains, I believe.
No.
I don't want to give out bad information, but it's North Link, and there's one other elementary school. Maybe Meredith could repeat it.
For voting?
Huh?
Yeah, polling places.
It's Lakewood, Link, West Nyack, and I think Clarkstown North High School.
Yeah.
It's definitely north, yes. So please,
so Lakewood, Link, and West Nyack Elementaries.
Secure your future. Vote yes and keep that school open and return those children back to their school. They've done nothing to nobody. They've been a political pendulum for this school administration. It's time for it to stop. I appreciate you guys' help so much in all of this, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Pete. Take care.
Take care.
All right, we have to take a break.